Welcome to Ireland. I'm going to show you two of the ways we make soda bread here. Now, what we've got laid out here, if I can remember which way to push the zoom on the camera, is the basic ingredients for soda bread. What you see here is about 450 grams of flour, which for those of you using US cups is about 3 scant cups of flour, a teaspoon of salt, a teaspoon of sugar, and a teaspoon of bicarbonate of soda, which they call bread soda over here. And in the jug there you see 250 milliliters of buttermilk. That comes to about 9 fluid ounces, or just a little bit over a cup for those of you using American measurements. The one thing you need to bear in mind about this is that all of these measurements are subject to change without notice. Your flour may absorb more or less liquid from day to day depending on your local conditions. It's changeable, and you have to learn sort of how to do this by feel and by look, which is one of the reasons we want to show you the look of the thing. The first thing you want to do is preheat your oven. It is desperately important not to put soda bread into an oven that's still warming up. This one is a little fan oven, which we're preheating to 175 degrees centigrade. That's about 375-ish Fahrenheit. By the way, if you hear occasional clunking noises in the background, that's the cats going in and out. All they know is that there's something that looks like milk on the counter and they want some. Preheat your oven. If you're using a fan oven, you may want to bake the soda bread a little bit more quickly than you would otherwise. Normally, soda bread of the cake variety, which is the kind we're going to make first, takes in the neighborhood of 35 to 40 minutes to be baked correctly. With a fan oven, you're thinking maybe more 30 to 35 minutes. You want to check it every now and then. You have to judge a little bit by the color and also by the sound the loaf makes when you pick it up and tap it. While the oven's preheating, a word from our sponsors. A lot of people tend to automatically associate soda bread with some kind of fruit or with it being sweet. Ah, there goes the oven. This isn't normally the case with regular everyday soda bread as it would routinely be eaten in Ireland. The sweet breads with fruit in them tend to be thought of as tea breads, and you wouldn't normally have them for breakfast or for the kinds of uses that plain soda bread is made. Now, the oven is going to keep peeping in the background, so you're just going to have to deal with that while we work. The most important thing to bear in mind about making soda bread is don't linger over it, don't overwork it, and don't knead it the way you would knead a normal loaf of bread. If you do that, you'll develop the gluten in the flour and you'll get a tough loaf that's going to lie there like a hockey puck and make you look very stupid. What you want to do is work lightly, as quickly as you can. Speed is of the essence, because once the milk hits the bread soda, the bicarbonate of soda, the rising process begins, and you don't dare waste any of that time. You also don't want to treat it too roughly. Breads raised using soda are a little more fragile than breads raised using yeast, and you can dislodge a lot of useful carbon dioxide bubbles which form, and you wind up with another hockey puck, which is no good to you either. So here we go. First, in go the salt, sugar, and the baking soda. You mix them around just to make sure that everybody is more or less evenly worked in there. Some people sift them together. I don't know that I would get that fanatical about it. Usually, if you just sort of throw it around like this, you're okay. Now then, just get that out of there. Now, you make a little bit of a well in here and you pour in your buttermilk. Now, I've used, as I say, 250 milliliters of it here. That's about, what was that? Call it, as I said, not about 9 fluid ounces. If you find that the bread is not coming up wet enough, you should just feel free to splash some more in there. Now, here is this kind of raggy consistency that is vital. You don't want a bread that's too dry. A bread that is too dry won't run. If it's wet, you can usually get around that. You can usually put a little more flour in there and get away with it. But again, be careful with the way you do that. Now this one, that looks pretty good. You pick up a piece and it should feel kind of squidgy when you deal with it, but that's almost a shade too dry for my taste. So I'm just going to put a little bit more in there. We're kicking it maybe up to now about, 300 milliliters total. Now that's getting a little more gooey looking. That's okay. So here we go. And there you see, it just gets a sort of raggy consistency. You don't want anything like an even ball of the stuff. You just don't. So there we are. Now, I'm just going to get a knife. The knife will become important in a moment. A little bit more flour on the working surface, just to keep things loose. This is as much kneading as is going to happen to this bread. You just want it to sort of hold together. You don't need to get crazy about it. You can sprinkle a little more flour underneath it to make it easier to work on the work surface if you like. Now, that's the basic shaping. That's it right there. Just a shade more flour underneath here to make it easier to work with. Pat it into a round. And now the important part. For cake bread, as is very common in the south of Ireland, you want to slice deeply. Don't press the knife down when you cut. You slice it again this way here. Some people wait until they put it on the baking sheet to do this. You know, you can get fanatical about that as well. Here's the baking sheet. You lift the business up there, and it goes into the oven.